Do you ever find yourself getting triggered by the way that people are acting? Like there's something that they're doing that just pisses you off. You find yourself getting really irritated with somebody, and it feels like our own reaction to that moment might be bigger than the moment itself. What's going on with that? The principle I'm about to share with you is one of the most transformational principles for being able to have dominion over our experience, regardless of what other people are doing. And to set this up, I want to share with you a particular example of this, or a story. One of my best friends, his name's Jason Miller. We wrote our first book together called Project Everlasting, all about what makes love last. We interviewed America's greatest marriages. So we're on our book tour. The book had come out. Simon and Schuster published the book. We're flying all over the country. We're on a particular flight, headed to a particular town to give a talk. The flight attendant comes by and says, "Hello, gentlemen. Would you like anything to drink?" And I'm like, yeah, can I get a Coke and some nuts? And so she's like, okay. And she takes the Coke out and she like cracks it and pours it into a glass, hands it to me, gives me some nuts. And my buddy Jason's like, yeah, actually, what I would really love, like, I don't know if you can do this, but if you can, I would love it, is 2 full cans of Coke and 2 bags of peanuts. And also I saw some chips in the back. It's like, any chance I could get the chips? As he's asking for this, I can feel my energy just starting to get irritated and boil. And I'm like, how dare he ask for all this stuff? And my mind's going through like, there's not going to be enough for other people on the plane. Like he's probably going to piss off the flight attendant. And I'm thinking, dude, you're embarrassing me right now. I'm feeling embarrassed. And the craziest thing happened. The flight attendant was like, oh yes, I would love to do that for you. Like she ate it up. She loved it. And she was like, okay, you want 2? Here's 1 can. Here's 2 cans. Like she was, whatever he did, he charmed her, and she was fully partnered with him and like, let's create this great experience for you. She wanted to serve and give him an amazing experience. She gave him the 2 packets of nuts and the chips. And I'm sitting there with a little glass of Coke, right? A little plastic cup of Coke and my little nuts. And I'm looking at his smorgasbord that he has, and I am pissed. Why am I so angry, right? Am I angry that he got more than I did? Nah, I actually didn't want all the things that he had. Why am I so fired up? There was something in me that got triggered that was deeper than the surface level circumstance that we were in. And that is so common for so many of us when we're in a moment when we're really feeling triggered. And almost always it's not about the circumstance itself alone. There's some deeper thing going on. If we can get in touch with that, we can actually get to the source of the anger, the source of the frustration, the source of whatever it is that's bubbling up and expressing itself, is that irritation, that trigger in whatever form that it's showing up. So the principle that can help us get to the root of what's causing this triggering response is called the mirror effect. And it comes out of work by Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, where they're talking about projection. And projection is where we unconsciously attribute a part of ourselves that we have rejected or not loved. It's a fear or a desire or an unhealed wound onto somebody else. And then their behavior actually mirrors back to us a part of ourselves that we've rejected, that we haven't yet loved, we haven't accepted, or we haven't healed. And so by them being that particular way, then it triggers us even more because it's like poking that wound in us. So as I learned this principle and learned why is it, because this didn't just happen on the plane. In my growing up with Jason, this was my experience. Later on, this was my experience because he would just ask for whatever he wanted, regardless of how the other person would respond. He was just free to ask for what he wanted. And the reason I discovered, oh, here's why that irritates me so much, is because there's a part of me that longs for that freedom, that longs to be able to ask for what I want. But somewhere along the way, when I was young, I learned that if I ask for what I really want, it's going to cost me the love and the connection. And I can remember the earliest moments in my childhood where I hooked up that belief system that if you really ask for what you want, you're going to lose the love and connection that you have. Because I'm the youngest of 4 children. And so I remember this one particular moment where my mom invited us on a Sunday. We always went to lunch and a movie. We always went to where my brothers wanted, my older brothers or sister, my mom. Like never would I get to go to the place I wanted to go for lunch. But one particular day, my mom goes, all right, today, everyone, we're going to go to where little Matthew wants to go have lunch. Little Matthew, where do you want to go have lunch? And I remember I'm like little, I'm like 6. And I could see my big brothers, they're 16, 17 years old. My sister's like 10. And they're all standing around. And I'm like, this is my chance. I get to ask for what I want. And I'm like, let's go to McDonald's, right? Like, of course, that's what a 6-year-old wants to do. And I remember in that moment, my brother's just going, ugh. My sister like, no, like they did not want to go to McDonald's. But I didn't care in that moment. I was like, we're going to McDonald's. So we all go to McDonald's. But then the experience of eating in McDonald's, my brothers were complaining. My sister didn't like it. They were all shut down. And they were so mad at me for making them go to McDonald's. I remember the movie. They were at me the rest of the day. And I was like, oh, like if I don't actually give other people what they want, then I'm going to lose the connection that I have with them. And that got lasered in. I didn't even know that I was operating with an unconscious pattern of restricting my own self out of fear, even to the point of being on an airplane and not asking for what I wanted because I was afraid other people might judge me or reject me, or I would lose whatever kind of connection that I would have. When I became aware of this, I began to see it begin expressing everywhere. I began to see it expressing in restaurants. Somebody would bring me my food. I'd order a hamburger. It came with cheese. And I'd be like, well, shouldn't Mike send it back? This is like early in my teenage years, 20s. I wouldn't send it back because I was afraid, like, I don't want to put the burden on them. If I send it back, they're going to spit in my food. Some of your cooks are like, yeah, we do. But either way, I wouldn't send it back because I was afraid. I was operating out of fear instead of abundance, out of fear instead of expansion. And so I'm going to share with you 5 of the most common triggers that can happen, super average everyday triggers that can actually reflect a part of ourselves that's asking for love, acceptance, or healing. So check this out. Number 1 is someone who you feel is bragging too much. Ever have someone in your life like that? Brags, kind of talks all about themselves, and you're like, yeah, this person is really conceited, or this person's really talking all about themselves. And while they may have whatever's going on in their life, if it feels really triggering to you, then notice that. Because what it can point to is a part of you deep down that wishes to be seen. There's a part of you that wishes to be valued and validated and celebrated for your worth, and for you to actually express that. The belief that's hindering that expression is that celebration is bad. Celebration is egotistical. Celebration is conceited. And so you suppress the part of you that wants to celebrate. And the irony is that actually celebration begets more success. When you actually celebrate and feel good about the steps you've taken and what you've accomplished, you attract to you more opportunities for that kind of success. And so how do you heal the part of us that gets really triggered by someone who is bragging too much? Through that lens of perception, is to explore where we learn to hide our achievements. Go back to the earliest memory that you have. Who did you learn to hide your achievement? Who taught you that that was bad? And then the practice is practice celebrating your own success unapologetically, first to your success, then to people who are in your close circle. Share the things that you really feel good about. Put that on, own it, get that rhythm down, and allow yourself to feel good about what you are achieving. The second trigger is someone who's lazy or unmotivated. Have you ever come home and seen someone on the couch and it just drives you crazy? Or someone who's posting pictures of their vacation. Like you're like, how do they have so much time off? They never work. What are they doing? And it just drives you nuts, right? There's a part of you that just fumes around this. This may reflect the part of us that's tired, that's overworked, that's looking for rest, that yearns for rest, but we feel guilty about taking breaks, or we feel like we're going to be lazy. And so that value of I have to work hard is in conflict with a deeper need that we have for rest. Be careful if this judgment of laziness equals worthlessness. If you see somebody relaxing, you see them taking a break or whatever it is, and you're judging it as lazy, often that's because we think laziness is worthlessness. The healing response is to embrace our own need for rest and relaxation, and to remember that we can validate that our worth is not connected to our productivity. Now, that's a really big idea, and we won't fully explore that here, but your worth is not connected to what you produce in this life. You are inherently worthy because you are a child of God. You are a spiritual being in this human experience. Your worth is inherent. It's not based on what you create or produce or achieve. So giving yourself the rest, noticing that, will help you feel less triggered by other people. Number 3 is someone who triggers you because they're overly critical, right? This is the person who you feel like they're nitpicking, they're critical, they're always looking for what's wrong. Now, it's not fun. It doesn't mean we have to be around people like that, but how much we get emotionally charged and how long it stays with us when we leave that person's presence is a suggestion that, we might want to do some deeper work here, versus we can just not be around them and just let it go. Their behavior might highlight our own inner critic, right? It's the harsh voice in our own head that judges ourselves so harshly, judges ourselves for not being good enough. And so this belief often comes through this lens of I have to be perfect to be loved. I have to be perfect to be worthy. And so the healing response in this one is to begin to develop a gentler voice with yourself, a more friendly internal dialogue, a more compassionate relationship with yourself, to practice self-talk that affirms your worth without conditions. Number 4 is someone who's overly needy or dependent. As I say that, I can feel some of you like you just don't like needy people, like their attachment to you. You're like, get away, right? This irritation, like why can't they do anything for themselves? Or why do I have to take care of everything? Again, healthy relationships have balance. What we're talking about is when we get so emotionally fired up, we carry that negative energy with us long past the interaction. That's when we know we've got deeper work that needs to be done. This is a part of us that feels exhausted from overgiving, but fears setting boundaries and asking for help. Is there a part of you that you feel exhausted, you feel overwhelmed, but at the same time you feel trapped because there's this part of you that has a rule, I can't ask for help because asking for help means X, something bad. I'm lazy. I'm not enough. I can't do enough. The healing response is to practice, number 1, self-care. And number 2 is boundary setting. The willingness to say no. The willingness to say, no, I'm not going to come to that party. Like we've got enough to do over here. I'm sorry, you're going to have a great time, but we're not showing up. Or no, I can't do you that favor because I'm full up over here, but I know you've got this and you can do an amazing job. The ability to say no and then do self-care is the place that begins to heal in us. Just those 2 actions alone fuel our own self-esteem, begin to build that muscle of self-esteem in us so that we can love ourselves enough to then love others enough to create a beautiful relationship. All right, let's take a look at number 5 here. Number 5 is someone who's loud or opinionated. I was just having a conversation with one of my buddies who it irks him. Anybody who's loud and opinionated, especially someone who's uninformed, hasn't done their own research or doesn't have firsthand experience, he'll lose it. Like he's like, that just grinds me so bad. Well, what is that, right? The irritated reaction is this person's dominating every conversation. Why can't they just keep quiet? They don't even have experience in this, right? This may point to the part of us that feels silenced, the part of us that we've overlooked, the part of us that is afraid to take up space, afraid to be seen. So if somebody else is loud, they're taking up space and they're easily being seen, the part of us that's keeping ourselves trapped is going to react to that. Why do they give themselves that freedom and I'm not giving myself this freedom? It's a fear of judgment of expressing ourselves. So how do we heal that? How do we move past that? How do we evolve that part of ourselves? The healing response is to explore how you hold yourself back in conversations and practice speaking your authentic truth. Speaking your authentic truth, even if other people don't agree. Because what that shows is you value yourself enough to be heard and seen. You value yourself enough to take up the space that you were God-given right to be in this world, have your perspective. And when you value yourself enough, you begin to love yourself enough that you're able to open and receive love from others in a whole new way, and you're able to hold love and compassion for others in a whole new way. The resistance of asking for what I wanted had kept me small, had kept me stuck. And it isn't black or white. It wasn't like I never asked for what I wanted, because at this moment I was on a book tour. I had written a book. I had asked in certain ways, but it was keeping me smaller than I wanted. And I made a decision in doing this work, noticing that trigger from my best friend and saying, where am I not asking for what I really want? It wasn't long after that my buddy and I were doing a book signing at the Los Angeles Wedding Expo. And I was in this practice of, I'm going to ask for what I want. And I remember going to grab some food for lunch, and I came down and I turned down this aisle, and there, working another booth, was a beautiful woman who wasn't paying me no mind. She didn't see me, didn't know I was there, but I was like, she is amazing, beautiful, and I want to talk to her. And I remember thinking, ask for what you want. Ask for what you want. Like, go ask her name. Go talk to her. This is what you want to do, is you want to create a connection. So I, with butterflies in my stomach and my palms sweaty, I walked right up to her, struck up that conversation. That woman happened to become my wife. That was Irene. So the process of creating these practices of reintegrating the parts of ourselves that we've either disowned or haven't healed or have judgment over, these processes create a freer, fuller, more expanded version of ourselves that leads to a freer, fuller, more expanded life. So my question for you is, do any of these resonate with you? Or maybe there's a different way in which you get triggered and you really know what it's connected to. I would love to hear your insights in the comment section below, because your insights alone can help somebody else have an insight that can create healing. So go ahead, share, be part of the conversation below, and know this: I appreciate you. I love the way in which you seek to expand your awareness and expand your life. And I know that with every step you take, you're creating amazing results. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.